The good news is we actually, have a lot more stuff to talk about this time than last time. So it worked out for the better.
There we go. So maybe give us a little taste of that for the audience who may not be completely familiar with sort of what's coming up next and what's been evolving. Maybe walk us through that a bit.
Yeah, so we're super excited. We have a new single coming out on October 25th called Brooklyn Baby. It's a song we wrote about our hometown and the people who come here to New York and leave everything behind and come and take a chance and follow their dreams here. And so it's about that. Super cool story about it was that I wrote the demo and I sent it around. One of my really good friends is Ken Lewis, who, just won a Grammy for Taylor Swift and, a ton of stuff that he's produced, like just everybody. And very lucky he's a good friend and I could send stuff and he'll usually give me some tips and some pointers. But with this one, I sent the demo to him and he said, get on a plane and get over here and let's finish this one together. And it was
Oh
like,
wow.
okay, so yeah, so it's a special one. We're super excited about it. So yeah, so that's coming out on the 25th. We're excited. And then on November 9th, we're doing a show with Murr from Impractical Jokers and his wife. They have a charity, and they asked us to come and play the party. So that's, an
Wow.
awesome thing. Yeah.
That's going to be so cool. So there's a lot that's been evolving in the last couple of months.
Yeah, yeah, there's been a lot and a ton of new music. We've just been
Yeah.
writing and recording and just getting stuff ready. So, and then yeah, and then we got our first show back is going to be November 30th at Mercury Lounge in New York City.
Incredible, man. Okay, so a lot to
Yeah.
unpack here. Let's sort of break it down. So Brooklyn Baby, what exactly is the sentiment of this song? You mentioned that it's about people who leave everything behind and come to New York. Is this a sort of like an accepting view of these people? Is this sort of a view that some people have that like these people are quote unquote transplants and it may be a negative thing? Like what's the vibe there?
That's a great thing. I mean, so many people that I've met over the years. I mean, I'm from here, but so many people, my wife included, who just like picked everything up and had this dream of coming to New York. And it's so cool. And it always gets me. It's like how brave these people are to just leave everything behind and move and have this idea and go to this place. So it's pretty awesome. It's a very, very cool thing. And the city, I was saying it the other day, it's like if you're out in the scene, it's like every couple of years it changes, the people change because there's always new people coming in. There's always new people coming in and some stick with it and some just get beaten up and they gotta go, and it doesn't work out and they move away, or they go to LA or something lame like that.
There you go.
But yeah,
There's always other options,
so
but they may not be as good.
well, it's something, but I mean, really,
It all depends. I mean,
yeah. So that's
so
kind of the sentiment.
yeah, I mean that is fascinating too because you do see so many people. It's like a place like New York can sort of chew you up and spit you out, but then other people seem to have a lot of success. Let's say in the music scene, because obviously everybody's story will be different, but there will be some consistent things across the board from case to case. What do you think is like a symptom of somebody who's going to have success from coming, and then also maybe like what are the symptoms of people that usually fail at that? Like, is there any consistent things?
Well, I think like with anything in life, it's about expectations, and it's about having you got to have big ambitions, but realistic expectations as to how you are going to achieve that, and being able to celebrate your wins. The people that I've known that come and get defeated immediately, they are always like, regardless of whatever win there is, there's always a bigger thing that they feel they missed out on. And, it's kind of a loser mentality. Like if you're always thinking that there's something better and you're missing out on it, it's
Hmm.
going to defeat you, it's going to beat you up, and it's going to win. But for those people that I've seen that come and they're like, well, this didn't work out, but this one thing did, and it could lead to this and this and this. they're the ones who succeed, I think that's with anything, you
For sure.
yeah,
So you really have to sort of let go of your expectations, because I found that too, just for anybody who's on a creative path that I talk to, they do seem to tell me like things will happen, but they don't happen in the way that you anticipate it, or like that little reel you play in your head of like what your journey will look like. So you've found that to be true.
for sure. I think most people, what they do is, especially these days, they're comparing their journey to other people's journeys.
Oh
And
yeah.
on social media, half those journeys are fake, right? And they're only showing you a piece of that journey. And so like they're, yeah, and since I guess, for a lot of people, it's they're not really thinking of their journey. They're thinking of, how do I get what somebody else has gotten.
Right.
And that's kind of the wrong way to think about it. You always have to sort of think about it as like, you're on your own and it will happen when it happens for you and how it happens for you. As long as you stick with it, it might not be exactly the way you planned, and it probably never will be, but there'll be, you'll be rewarded, for sticking with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, maybe looking at Don't Believe in Ghosts and, taking it back to the beginning. Obviously, we're speaking about New York being such a hub, and there's so many people that go there from all over the world. So it's obviously saturated in a lot of ways. But, obviously you
Mm.
guys have also found a way to stand out in that scene. What do you think were the elements for you guys that took you from being just another band who's starting in the scene to where you guys are today? How do you guys stand out?
I mean, it's like anything else. I think like early on, it's about being there, like it's like, 101, it's showing up and it's being a part of the conversation. And finding where that scene is and getting involved in it and meeting the other people in the scene. The early days, like for any band and for anything, you could fill up your show just by going to shows every single night and meeting the bands that are playing, introducing yourself, talking to them, becoming friends, and then inviting them to your show. And, and when you can find musicians that support each other, like early days, there was always the case where, half the crowd would be other bands.
Right.
And, we'd be out there supporting them. They'd come support us. And that's how a scene is kind of built. And that's important. That's, it's built on that. Um, and then, some other things, I guess. But,
Other things we might not
that's a
mention.
big, yeah. But that's a big part of it. For us, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean it's the starting point of that kind of opens the doors, and leveraging. So now you have this audience, and you start to get known through that. And whether it's your audience or not, I mean, it's just that there's people coming out, and it can
Right.
kind of snowball and build from there, you know.
So at what point did you find that you guys sort of made that switch from having mostly fellow artists in the crowd to actually winning over enough of, these different crowds that, eventually the majority is just your fans? Like how many years or months do you think it took roughly for you guys to get to that point?
So I think like the two moments that really stand out for me is one of the first Don't Believe in Ghost shows, because I was in a different band,
Mm.
and had played and had built, a following and toured for a long time, a band called Man on Earth. And so then, and sort of like the birth of this was, Don't Believe in Ghosts. It was kind of like me sitting there saying, I'm going to step away from who I was before, and whenever we do that, I'm going to try something different. And whenever we do that in life, we're inevitably judged by those who know us in a certain way. People like to keep things simple, and they like to categorize people they know. And when you change your category and when you change what you do, sometimes it's hard for certain people that are, stuck in it to change along with you. And that for some people can be debilitating, and I was very cognizant. I was very aware of like, oh, I'm going to try something different. Some people probably thinking that I should just stop. And then other people thinking like, like it's not going to be heavy enough because I was doing heavier stuff, or it was going to, whatever it is. And then you know there are those that you played with before that are going to be rooting against you, not because of you personally, but because of them, because now they feel a pressure to do something and they want to make sure that this doesn't do something, because then they're going to feel a lot more pressure to do something and they'd rather not
Right.
do anything, right? And just call it. So really it was like that idea of like don't believe in ghosts was not to give energy to the ghosts of your past. Like it doesn't matter what these people say, you know? So that was kind of like it. So coming out with these first shows, to go back to that point, the two moments for me where it was like, oh, there's some kind of transfer here, was one of the first shows we did, and Dr. Fink from Prince and the Revolution, like the keyboard player from Prince and the Revolution, is
Wow.
a good friend. He came over and he co-wrote one of the songs for the first record with me. And then when we were doing the first show, he flew in to play keyboards for the first show. And then, doing that and then seeing people actually come, this wasn't the old band, but like seeing people come was like, oh, like, could do this. Like, this is
Yeah.
cool. Like,
Not a bad start.
there's something. Yeah. And then the second moment for that was really like just before COVID, we headlined Bowery Ballroom in New York City, which is just like such a killer venue. Um, and we were playing last and we're like, we just hope people stick around, like that was like our thing. And then they're like, yeah, it's sold out. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we hope people stick around. But you look out, it's like not as many people. And then when we went on, the room totally filled up and
Oh, wow.
everybody came from the bar and everybody came. And we're like, I don't know who half these people are, but let's go, like
That's it.
that's a cool thing. Yeah. That was a cool moment.
Man, that's incredible. So, that feeling of winning them over with the context as well of what you're saying must be so huge for you because again, you're making a switch not only in your music, but I mean it does affect you personally in a way too when you're making those switches. So that must have been one hell of a feeling then as this continued to progress. And I would imagine you still, are resonating with those feelings.
Oh yeah. I mean, every one of us got derailed by COVID, right?
Yeah.
I lost my brother and like the world shut down and, everything that happened there. And that's like it's like almost 5 years ago now, right? Like insane, but still like, getting back together from a lot of that. That was definitely a derailing thing. So for us, post COVID, the first show we did after all of that, it was a show that was booked for March 13th, 2020. Um, and that was the night everything shut down. That was the night that like
Right.
the world shut and that was it. So we had this amazing sold out show that was canceled and that was it. And then we didn't get to play it for like 2 years. And so it was like, well, in your mind you're like, well, who's going to come, like who's going to come, like hopefully people come, but this is more for us, like we need to do this, like we need to get
Mm.
back out there and do this. um and so yeah, it was a similar moment where all of a sudden, people came out and we had all been away from each other for so long and all of a sudden these people came out and that was it was just a very very cool moment after all the stuff we've been through. It was more of a triumphant thing for me personally too, to just be like, for all of us to be back together after everything that had happened,
Yeah.
some sort of normalcy, it was cool.
No, for sure. I mean, thinking of that time, it feels so recent, but it also feels so far away in a sense because we're so far past the lockdowns and all this, but it wasn't long ago. Um, do you feel like the music business, as somebody who's in it, like has gotten back on its feet since the pandemic, or do you feel like there are differences that maybe we're still, sort of digesting and trying to realize since?
I mean, I think it's totally a different business. It's an entirely different world than it was before, and I think that's the case in music as well. Like we have more artists now that are breaking through social media than we did, before. And before you could have something go viral, now it's like it could launch a career, you know.
Yeah.
And just the way we consume things changed by everybody being in lockdown. I think it like pushed things forward a little bit further. So yeah, I think it's a totally different world. It's not an entirely different world. It's just a lot of things have changed a lot.
Hmm.
The music side, definitely, definitely.
Do you feel like that impacts the concerts at all? Because, one thing I've heard a lot of artists say is that they still feel a higher level of energy and just happiness from people who are able to come out to shows since, the lockdowns were so long.
I think we appreciate it more. It's
Yeah.
like I almost took it for granted before, and then post, it's like, been going to more concerts in the last year than I went to, for the last couple of years before that. Just even myself. Like, so it's just, I think we almost took it for granted. And now to be able to get out there and, hopefully that's something that sticks with people, you know, to
Yeah.
to get back out there and enjoy the shows and stuff.
Now, moving back into the touring and you guys are, in full swing yet again, how do you guys handle some of the unexpected elements that continue to happen? Because obviously, the pandemic was unexpected, but as I spend more time with artists and more time at shows, the one thing that really strikes me is that, bands have to deal with so many unexpected twists and turns and they just roll with it. Maybe talk to me about that element of being in a band and how you guys as a group sort of handle that and navigate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like definitely, at any point, there's always going to be, when it comes to when you're traveling, playing shows, there's a million variables that are going to happen in anything you're doing, you know? So you gotta, I mean, that's what defines whether a band's going to get along too, in a band situation, is how certain people react to those things. If something happens and it changes, and we're sharing a drum kit all of a sudden, and somebody doesn't want to share, and like weird stuff like that can happen, variables, that determines a lot. There's been a lot of times in my career and stuff I've done where you know I've had people that just reacted wrong to certain things.
Yeah.
um and so you learn about people in those moments, and if you're smart enough, you don't think they're going to change. You just move on and you make a change.
Right.
I haven't always been that way. I'm always so forgiving. And in some of those situations in the past, but yeah, but right now, like with what we have, I mean, everybody's cool. There's no like overreacting to scenarios. So
Right.
that's a good thing. We just kind of take it as it comes. It's important. It's got to be fun. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah,
You know?
and I'm sure that comes with time, like you're saying, and experience as well. It's not something that you can really have down pat right out the gate, but as you say, it takes time to evolve into or sort of lean into that in terms of those qualities.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Now, in terms of the single that's coming out, how does a single like Brooklyn Baby sonically compare to a single like Drowning, for example? Is it sort of a continuation of that style, or is it a completely different vibe?
So I think, with Drowning, we were stepping in some new territory. And we're kind of excited with where we're going sonically with this. And then a lot of stuff we've been writing since then is even more like, you know, in this like just I think it's just a more refined, catchier, bigger hooks. It's in hindsight, you go back and you listen to things and you're like, there's more stuff in here than needs to be. Like we could simplify this, like just get to the point, cut it out, let's get a better that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it's really been like about sitting there and going, is this verse as good as it can be? Are these words as good as they can be? Is this And, with Brooklyn Baby, it was a song that, I sent the demo to Ken, like I was telling you. And he's like, come here and let's finish this. And going there, it was like, I went in there with certain words and he's like, we could do better. We could do better, do better. And he's like helping me rewrite these words and things like that. And I've been writing for a long time, but you could just never stop learning, you know.
Yeah.
And it's always hard to see it yourself, but then suddenly when somebody can come in and kind of like switch things around and move things around and put it in perspective, you can learn a lot from it. It's it's the song's awesome. It's a one listen, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, like one listen. It's awesome. It's just great. Yeah. Probably one of the it's up tempo, it's got energy, and it's awesome. I'm super excited for it.
That is super exciting. I mean, it's funny how you mentioned that, you listen to your old songs and you sort of start editing it in your head. Is it hard for you to actually listen to music that you've made before for that reason, or is that something that you actually enjoy?
So the further I get away from things, the more I can appreciate it. There's like a
Okay.
window, right? Like while you're working on it, you love it, you hate it, you love it, you hate it, that kind of thing. Then you put it out there and you're like, this is great. Then you're like, was it good? Da 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 da. It's really not until like enough times passed that and enough songs have been written and released since then that you could really listen to it and judge it. So now like I'm able to go and like hear some of the oldest stuff that I've done and just appreciate it for what it was and when it was and who I was when I made it, and
Right.
that's the important thing. If you're real in what you're doing, you're capturing who you are at the moment. And, as you're getting out of who you are at the moment, you're going to need to be away from that. But once you're far enough away from it, you can look back at it, and say, oh, that was a cool place. Or, I wasn't in the best spot then, but,
Right.
I'm glad where I went, that kind of thing. So, yeah,
Is
but I'm
that the
proud
most
of
important
everything that we've
part?
done
Yeah, for sure.
to be able to appreciate it.
No, to be able to really capture where you are in that moment, is that one of the most important elements of making great music?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
like, if you ever hear like a great song, even from somebody else, like just anybody, and it's a great song that and you hear it at any point, it brings you back to a certain moment in your life, a certain time. You could smell things, the season, everything about it that comes back to it. Yeah, I mean, that's like you connected to a level where it's you at that moment, when you were hearing the song. And I think like as a writer too, it's the same kind of thing, you can go back and listen to something and it takes you back to that time. And that's important. If it's real and genuine for what you were doing at the time, it clicks.
Yeah, without a doubt. Stephen, I really appreciate you taking the time to stop by. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and sounds like a
Dude,
really
always,
awesome
man.
time for the band. Yeah, tell people where they could find you guys. Obviously, the show's coming up.
Yeah, don't believe in ghost.com. Honestly, Instagram is our most responsive. So, come in there and say hello. And, it's just don't believe in ghosts at Instagram. And yeah, Brooklyn Baby arrives October 25th. So let us know what you think.
Beautiful, Stephen, Nathan. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, buddy. Have a great day, man. Thank you for taking time with me.